Okay, time for a new video, and whether you are somebody new to my channel or you are returning to my channel to watch this video, it is greatly appreciated. As always, I'm filming this video in one go, so if I stumble over my words moving forwards, apologies about that, and also if the quality of this video is fairly poor as well. If there's any lag, anything like that at all, sadly it cannot be helped, and hopefully it is not too much of an issue for you. This is yet another sort of Eurovision related video here on my channel. Today I am going to be filming a Q&A video, yet another one here on my channel. Recently I filmed a short video asking for questions. I've had a few, not too many, but I sort of expected that because this channel is very small anyway. But what I'm going to do in this video you're watching now is answer the questions that were left for me on that YouTube video in the comments, and also a few questions that I received on Twitter as well. I want to take this opportunity to say a big thank you to those of you who did leave questions. And I do intend on filming another Q&A video at some point in the future. I also will take this opportunity to say that there are links in the description to my other social media pages. Check them out if you so wish. I have seen all of these questions, but I haven't really thought about the answers in any great detail. So if I waffle, bear with me. And without further ado, I'm going to get straight into this. The video in which I announced the Q&A, which I uploaded a few days ago at the time of recording this video you're watching now, that video is going to be removed from YouTube because there's no point leaving it up anymore. So, let's take a look at the YouTube comments first. The first one is from G-Setful, and it says, in your opinion, is the ban of Russia to the next competition right? And if so, why? Well, the EBU's stance on it is that if a country or an act or whatever is bringing the contest into disrepute, I think that's their word, something along those lines, if that's the case, they're booted out. And that's sort of what happened with Belarus. They were booted out of the contest because they sent a song that had certain political undertones to it, and the EBU said, we're not having that. And obviously with Russia invading one of their geographical neighbours, the EBU also said, we're not having that either. So I do think it is right. If the war in Eastern Europe was to come to an end very soon, and hopefully it does come to an end very soon, if it ended and the EBU invited Russia back out of the blue, I'm not sure that would be a very popular decision. I don't think that would happen because I believe that I believe that the Russian broadcasters who were part of the European Broadcasting Union either had their membership suspended or completely withdrawn. So I think they'd have to reapply. I don't know how it works. I really haven't looked into it in too much depth. But I don't think we're going to be getting Russia back for a very, very long time, if at all. If at all. I don't know if they'd even want to come back. I don't think it would be a really popular decision with the overwhelming majority of Eurovision fans. So yeah, I do think it is right that they're not taking part. It is what it is. I believe in Belarus's case that it's a 3-year ban, and I think 2023 is the 3rd year of that ban. So they could be back sooner rather than later. I really don't know. Would that be a popular decision with Eurovision fans as well? It's hard to say. But in Russia's case, I think for the overall benefit, if that's the right word, of the contest, it's probably best that they don't come back for some time. You could say it's a shame, but at the same time, look what they're getting up to. Not great. Moving on. The next question that I received, thank you very much for that question, by the way, G-Setful. Next up is a question by Ciceruith, and it says, will you ever do personal rankings of really old editions, pre-2000s? The answer to that question is yes, I already have done. If you go onto my Twitter page, link in the description, and scroll back very far, you will find pictures that show my rankings of older editions of the contest. And if you go onto what I call my Facebook writing page, again, link in the description, and scroll back a little bit, you will be able to find images as well relating to my rankings of old Eurovision Song Contests. In terms of pre-1993, 1993, the year I was born, I have a sort of ranking for 1992, 91 and 1990. Prior to that, I don't have any rankings at all. It is a slow, ongoing process. I have personal winners and personal favourites, but in terms of an actual ranking of all the songs for every contest pre about 1990, they don't exist. But for 1993 to the present day, yes, they do exist. They're online somewhere, and if you look hard enough, you'll find them. I might make videos in the future in which I go through my rankings in a bit more detail, but I don't think that would be that interesting at all for most people. If you are interested, let me know. But really, I think it's just going to be stuff on Twitter, stuff on Facebook, that sort of thing. Maybe Instagram as well down the line. I don't know. Thank you very much for asking that question, though. Next up is a question from You Kidding Me. And it says, considering our rich history of rock bands, why do you think the BBC hasn't sent rock to Eurovision? Well, we've mostly had national finals over the decades, and I suppose the artists submitting songs to the national finals just haven't written a rock song, or aren't rock musicians in general, and therefore in the national final there is no rock on offer. I can't remember the last national final we had in the UK where a rock song, a true rock song, was present. It is a great shame. The UK does have a pretty good sort of rock indie scene, lots of up-and-coming bands, that sort of thing. Really good stuff. And I'd love to see the UK have a rock song at Eurovision at some point. I think it could really work wonders for us. But I suppose, really, the BBC either hasn't been looking for rock songs, they've been looking for safer material, perhaps, or no rock songs have been submitted for contention for the channel anyway. I think it's probably a mixture of the two, if you see what I mean. Certainly, the diversity needs to be there moving forwards. I'd like to see that diversity. Obviously, in terms of genre, whether that's rock or country or jazz or whatever. And this is the case for all the countries that participate in Eurovision too. It starts at the national final stage, if indeed a country has a national final. And even if you don't have a national final, if you're opting for an internal selection again, you've got to be hopefully getting songs in from all different genres. Hopefully so. I'm really rambling here, but hopefully you can understand my point. It was announced earlier today that the UK are teaming up with Tap Music again, after it was a great success with Sam Ryder, of course. That's good news. So hopefully we'll have something a bit different next year. Why go for the same again? We've had a really great song. Now let's have a slightly different great song. I can see the UK having a female soloist, by the way, next year. What a ramble, but hopefully that answered your question. Next, Styro says, what is your earliest memory of Eurovision, and when did you realise you had become a fan? I've answered this before, but I'll answer it again. 2003, the Riga contest, absolute classic, probably my favourite Eurovision to date, even now. That's the first contest I remember watching. Long story short, a couple of years later I was in a music shop, and they had the 2003 CD for sale, which was just unbelievable to me, and I bought the CD, listened to it, and my memories of the songs came flooding back, even though it had been years since the contest actually happened. So that's sort of my earliest memories. Fun fact, earlier today, this is no joke, I was sorting through a box of stuff because we've been sorting through stuff in our attic, and inside one of the boxes was a sheet of paper that had my handwritten list of the running order of the 2004 contest. So I must have been a fan, certainly, at that time. I don't really remember watching the 2004 contest live, or listening to the songs for the first time, but back then, clearly I was a fan. In terms of really paying attention to the contest year-round, that was a few years later, the semi-finals, a few years later, and then national finals and things like that, a few more years after that. So I would say that I've been a pretty big fan, not a hardcore fan, but a pretty big fan for at least a decade now. The next part of your question Was the ESC popular among people close to you when you first started watching it? No, not really. None of my family members are fans of the contest. My brother watches it every year. My mother knows about it because I talk to her about it. And my mother does listen to parts of the songs every year as well. She has her mild favourites, shall we say. She liked Denmark earlier this year, by the way. And my dad knows a little bit about it. I have a really good friend who actually went to the family final in Turin earlier this year. I think they actually messaged me when they were in the arena. They sent me a picture of Cornelia performing. The family final is the sort of big run through before the live final on the Saturday night on TV, of course. And it was great, and I think they might go to Eurovision again next year, so I might be able to see them, which would be really cool. So I have one or two friends who are keen on it, but really it's just me. There it is. And that's always been the case. Thank you for your questions, plural. Next, the piece around says, how do you feel about the announcement that MESC, that's the multi-selection, next year will have 40 songs in the national final? And how would you do things differently if so? I think it's a load of rubbish. It's always, it should always be quality over quantity. And in Malta's case, they're not doing that. As we saw with the multi-selection earlier this year, the quality really wasn't that high. It was as if they had just gone back in time after Michaela, after Destiny, after having a format that seemed quite successful for them. They've gone back to square one. Disappointing. And the thing with Malta is that every time there's a national final, the same names keep popping up. You already know who's going to be involved in Malta's national selection next year. 40 songs, give over. You know that Fabrizio Faniello probably will be there. Claudia Faniello will be there. Christabel might come back. Franklin Kalea will be there. Kurt Kalea might be there. Richard Edwards will certainly be there. He can't stay away. You know the names that are going to come up. We might get Gaia Cauchi, who won Junior Eurovision a couple of years ago, about a decade ago now. She might be involved, never has been before. Federica Falson, who sung Diamonds at the Junior Eurovision Song Contest years ago, that sort of operatic voice. I think she'd be really good. So yeah, it's always interesting to see the names, but really, how many of those 40 songs are going to be competitive? Maybe none of them. You know, maybe a handful of them. But 40, some of them are not going to stand a chance. They will be dead on arrival. That's not good enough. If you, as a music professional, and music professionals will be checking these songs out, of course, surely, you should be saying, right, this is a fine song, but it's not competitive. It has no chance of winning the national final, and therefore has no chance of even qualifying for the Eurovision final. It's out. Out. Seriously, if you end up with just 6 or 7 songs, that's it. It's a national final with 6 or 7 songs. People won't care. Take a look at UMK in Finland. Quality over quantity. They've got a really good format going for them now. And yes, the Rasmus didn't do that well in Turin, but the quality of the national final was still pretty high, and I'm sure it will be again next year. Malta need to take a look at Finland and say that's how you should be doing it. Quality over quantity. The only good thing really about having 40 songs in the multi-selection is that it gives a lot of people an opportunity to compete and show off the quality of Maltese singers that are out there. But really, I think it could be very messy indeed. I've already explained how I would do it differently. I'd have less songs. I would wheel out the naff stuff, and I know that sounds harsh, but there will be some really naff songs in the Maltese selection next year. Just get rid of them. I'm sorry, get rid of them. You are in it to win it. That's the motto of Eurovision for me moving forwards. I've been saying it for ages. You are in it to win it, as far as I'm concerned. You've got to have something quite competitive. Something that's going to get points. You know what I mean? Anyway, I'm really rambling. Thank you for the question. And the last one on YouTube is from Lauravision. Who do you see hosting Eurovision this year? Or rather next year? For some reason I can picture Davina McCall and Timur from 2017 doing it. Do you think Graham Norton will commentate as usual? Well, Terry Wogan hosted and commentated in 1998, and I put something up on Twitter about that recently, and somebody replied and said, Graham Norton could do it, but the role of host has changed. And I suppose it has a little bit. Saying that, I can still see Graham Norton doing both jobs. I can't imagine anybody else doing the commentary, quite frankly. I think Graham Norton will still be doing the commentary years from now, even though he's in his late 50s, I think, Graham. Anyway, he is Mr. Reliable. He is Mr. Super Experienced. He will be involved in a big way in next year's contest. Davina McCall is not a bad shout, also vastly experienced. The fact that Eurovision is on the BBC strongly suggests to me that they will be looking for predominantly BBC presenters, so maybe people who present the One Show, something like that. Alex Scott, former footballer, she does everything. She'll probably be there. I don't know. Maybe a newsreader could be doing it. You know, somebody a little bit more on the formal side, maybe. I really don't know. Maybe Claudia Winkleman, Tess Daly, they both present Strictly Come Dancing, which is one of the biggest shows on television, has been for years. And of course, let's not forget that the last time the UK hosted a Eurovision-related event was the Eurovision Dance Contest. Remember that? Probably not. It was short-lived, only 2 editions, both in the UK. The first one was in London, I believe. The second one was in Glasgow? Can't quite remember. Glasgow or Edinburgh. Can't remember for the life of me. Danny Saucedo danced for Sweden one year, I know that much. But, getting back to the point, the hosts on both occasions, if I recall, Graham Norton and Claudia Winkleman, could be the dream team again for 2023. Wouldn't be surprised. I think Rylan, who does the co-commentary for the semi-finals, I think he'll be there. Scott Mills, who's been commentating on the semi-finals for years now, at least a decade, he'll be there, no doubt. I can't really picture anybody else doing it. That's the thing. I don't want a sort of comedian turned presenter, because to me it's almost as if they're always trying to get jokes in, one up each other. They shout so much. Can't be doing with anything like that. So keep it really safe and simple. I think there'll be 3 hosts, just like we had in Turin. And if there is to be a Ukrainian host, which would make perfect sense, Timur is the man. He has hosted Eurovision before, co-hosted it before in 2017. As you said, he's co-hosted Junior Eurovision twice, I think. I mean, he is Mr. Ukrainian Eurovision. So, safe pair of hands, get him on the phone. So there you go, that's what I think. Thank you for your question. As for Twitter, Blue Zone, these are the last questions here. How and when did you get into Eurovision? I've already answered that, 2003. What do you want to see the UK do for Eurovision 2023? Should they continue with tap or go in a different direction? Well, we now know, because it was announced earlier today, September the 8th, that the BBC are sticking with tap music. I think that's the right thing to do. I don't want us to go back to a national final unless desperate times call for desperate measures, but I do not trust the British public with voting for anything, so it's very risky business. What would you like to see the BBC do as hosts? A good job, it's as simple as that. Opening interval acts? I think in the semi-finals, I'm not really too sure, but I think in the final, maybe, a Ruslana, Jamala, Kalush Orchestra mashup. Sam Ryder apparently is doing a song with Kalush Orchestra. Great opportunity for him to team up with them as part of the opening act in 2023. Maybe he can sing Stefania, perhaps, and maybe they could sing Spaceman. I don't know. That would be quite nice, a real show of unity. Maybe you could have a little similar to one of the interval acts in Azerbaijan all those years ago, where sort of Ukrainian musicians, obviously it was Azerbaijani musicians back then, but maybe next year you could have Ukrainian musicians performing British Eurovision entries in a sort of traditional Ukrainian style, so like a Ukrainian version of Love Shine a Light, something like that, I don't know. I think it would be great to have all of the British winners back, so Lulu, Sandy Shaw, Brotherhood of Man, Bucks Fizz, Katrina. Katrina will surely be there. She hosted the Eurovision 50th anniversary special, co-hosted that in Copenhagen all those years ago, so maybe get Katrina as one of the hosts. She's been there and done that. Presenters I've spoken about. Postcards, I don't really know. Maybe something similar to 2011. Ukrainians living in Britain, but also with ties to, you know, Germany and Portugal and Estonia and all of the countries that will be taking part. I don't really know. And branding. Well, I think the logo, which will be revealed soon, is going to be a split of the British and Ukrainian flag. The slogan, I've been saying this for ages, United, just makes sense because Eurovision is such a united event in a way. Yeah. And obviously, if it's in Manchester, you could have City United, because that way you are pleasing both Manchester City fans and Manchester United fans. I don't really know, but I think United just sums up what Eurovision is about. Everybody coming together and being united as one. So thank you for that. The last one, do you think Germany will take a leaf out of Spain and the UK's book and get their blooming act together? Probably not. But if the UK can turn it around after years of mediocrity, and if Spain can turn it around after years of mediocrity, Germany certainly can. Certainly can. Michael Schulte nearly finished third in 2018. Great song, great performance, lovely track. Ben Dolic, contest was cancelled in 2020, but Violent Thing was a massive step in the right direction. That would have done well, possibly top 10 finish. Could have been a hit outside of Germany too. They are capable of doing it. They just need to do it. The national final, not strong enough. Where's the quality? You know, people were talking about that band, Eskimo Callboy, I think they're called. Maybe they should have just opted for them. That would have been a very popular choice with Germans and non-Germans. Give the people what they want. Listen to suggestions, take it on board, have that quality. Every single song, let's say there's 5 in the national final, absolute bang on the money, top quality stuff. Nobody's disappointed. Hopefully the right winner, the best choice, and then at Eurovision the points will pour in. Germany can do it. Will they though? That's the big question. I don't know. Maybe they should just have a song in German. It's been a long, long time. I think the last one was Roger Cicero in 2007. Frauen regieren die Welt. Oh, that's a good song. Jazzy stuff. Big band stuff. Love it. Anyway, massive ramble. So there we go. Not much else to say. I think this video is absolutely the right length. So thank you once again to everybody who left questions for me. Moving forwards, I really need to say this. I don't know what things are going to be like moving forwards, because I might definitely have less time to film. I might not be able to film for as long as I have in the past. Certain things are in the midst of changing, so could be difficult moving forwards. I really don't know. For now, I have plans to film other videos. They'll be coming soon, and my plan, if I can, sort of in the middle of the day, I don't think it's going to be possible. I don't think so. But when we get the host city announcement, my plan is to film a very, very important video on that day. And my plan outside of YouTube on that day is to have a very important conversation with my really good friend and really try and organise accommodation and actually going to the event next year. It's going to be a manic time, but hopefully a great time too. That's the end of this video. Thank you once again. Links in the description to my social media pages, including the Instagram page that I co-run with the same friend, all about the Eurovision Song Contest. We're trying to get posts up as frequently as possible to do with the ESC. Until next time, take care of yourselves, stay safe, and take care of yourselves. Simple as that. Bye for now.